Debit and credit rules. Let's have a look at the extended accounting equation. Assets on the left-hand side is equal to liabilities plus shareholders' equity plus revenues minus expenses and minus dividends on the left-hand side. You notice that expenses and dividends are having a negative sign. To make the sign before expenses and dividends positive, we will transfer them to the left-hand side. Now we have assets plus expenses plus dividends on the left-hand side, which is equal to liabilities plus shareholders' equity plus revenues on the right-hand side. All signs are positive. You can remember it by the phrase deals are us. Then split the word deals are into two equal sides. DEA goes on the left and LSR goes to the right, and they are both equal. The left-hand side is called in accounting the debit side, and the right-hand side is the credit side. Now let's assume some transactions are done on any of the assets account. If we buy or acquire assets, we're going to add, and if we sell or discard assets, we're going to subtract. In real life, amounts are not going to be rounded off. There would be decimals as well. This makes the addition and subtraction in one column confusing and increases the risk of mistakes. If we segregated the positive values from the negative values, we can put the positive values on one side and the negative values on the other side. This makes it easier and less likely for the accountant to make mistakes. This is what we call a T account. This is the case for all the accounts which falls under the DEA classification. That is, we place the positive values on the left side and the negative values on the right side. The left side is also called the debit side and the right side is called the credit side. The left side has the effect of increasing the value for dividends, expenses, and assets, and the right side has the effect of decreasing the value for the same categories. So, for example, if we added the left-hand side, which is debit, and added the right-hand side, which is credit, we will find that the debit side is usually greater than the credit side for all of the accounts under the DEA category. In this case, we will put the greater figure on both sides, then we will subtract the smaller, which is the right side, which totals to 4,310 from 11,590 to get the balance of 7,280. This is placed on the side of the greater value, which is in this case the left-hand side. This means that the asset account in this case has a debit balance. As the debit, the left side is greater than the credit, which is the right side. This process is called balancing of the T account. Another way to do it is to do it in one step by just adding both sides and subtract the smaller value from the larger value and put the balance on the side of the larger value. So assume all the debits are 11,590. You then subtract all the credits, which are 4,310, to get a balance equal to 7,280. This is placed on the debit side since it is the side that has the larger figure. Similarly, if we have a liability account such as this one, we need to balance it. You see that the credit side, which is the right-hand side, is greater than the debit side, the left-hand side. So you will subtract 7,000 from 1,000 to get a balance of 6,000. The balance this time is going to appear on the credit side since it has the greater value. Hence, usually the liabilities, shareholders' equity, and revenue account normally carries a credit balance. That is when they increase, you place it in the right credit side, and when they decrease, you place them on the left-hand side, which is the debit. To recap, let's return back to our rearranged accounting equation. You will notice that assets, expenses, and dividends increases on the side in which they are positive, which is the left-hand side, or the debit side. To decrease any of them, you would move it to the other side of the equation, which is the credit side. That is why assets, expenses, and dividends increases on the debit side of the account and decreases on the credit side of the account. On the right-hand side of the equation, you will notice the liabilities, shareholders' equity, and revenues. The increases on the side in which they are positive, which is the right-hand side, or credit side. To decrease any of them, you would move it to the other side of the equation, which is the debit side. That is why liabilities, shareholders' equity, and revenues increases on the credit side of the account and decreases on the debit side of the account. Remember that debit and credit places don't change. Debit is always on the left and credit is always on the right. But each side could be either an increase or decrease depending on the account and the category that it is related to. The rule is that any category increases on the side of its normal balance and decreases on the opposite side. Dividends, expenses, and assets have a normal balance in the left-hand side, which is the debit side. So if they increase, they become debit as their normal balance, and if they decrease, they become credit since it is the opposite to their normal balance. Liabilities, shareholders' equity, and revenues have a normal balance on the right-hand side, which is the credit side. So when they increase, they become credit, and when they decrease, they go to the opposite side, which is debit.